All right, and Mr. Patterson and Mr. Abadi, and Mr. Conley. Yes. All right. Just so you know, the media is here, and I sent you all the Rule 22s. But did you all have any objections you wanted to raise before we begin the hearing?
No objection from the defense.
Okay. All right. Media can continue filming. All right. Go ahead. We're here for a bond hearing as well. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Conley, he's 19 years old. He was born in Snellville, Georgia. He's a lifelong resident of Georgia and the metro Atlanta area. At the time of this incident, he was unemployed. He also attended Georgia Piedmont Technical College working on his GED. As it relates to the facts of this case, Your Honor, briefly, this is a case where Mr. Conley was peacefully protesting the death of Rayshard Brooks when a car came up to the barricade, attempted to go through the barricade, and some unknown killers at this time shot into the car and killed little precious Secoriea Turner. My client did witness the actual incident, but he did not know anyone out there that day. He did not know anyone personally and cannot even identify anyone by clothing or by face. He was so traumatized to witness this incident where several individuals shot into this automobile. So, Your Honor, when he saw his face on television as a person of interest, he immediately contacted me. I brought him into my office. We told the police who he was. And, Your Honor, as it relates to these Ayala factors, there are 4 factors. 1 is risk to flee. 2, obstruct justice, intimidate witness, and to commit crimes. Clearly, Your Honor, the fact that the moment he saw himself on television, he came to my office, so clearly there's no risk to flee and to obstruct justice, because guilty killers don't turn themselves in when they see themselves on television. Guilty people flee. The real killers in this case are still out on the run. So the fact that he turned himself in, and when the police called me that Wednesday morning and told me that they had a warrant for him at 8 a.m., we turned him in at 4:30 p.m. the same day. So there is no risk to flee, obstruct justice, or intimidate witnesses, because my client didn't know anyone on the scene on that particular day of 4th of July. The only thing the state could argue, and it's very minor, they would argue that he has 2 arrests in his past. One would be for terroristic acts, and in fact, Your Honor, it really should be reckless conduct, because all he's accused of doing is throwing a firecracker out of a car in Cobb County, and he was arrested for terroristic acts. So it really should be a misdemeanor reckless conduct. He's also had a case of shoplifting in DeKalb County. He got pretrial diversion. So he is not convicted of that charge, but while he was going through pretrial diversion, COVID hit, so everything was put on hold, so he was not able to complete pretrial diversion. There was also, I've discovered that there might have been a failure to appear on a traffic ticket, but that matter has also been resolved. So, Your Honor, the only thing the state can argue is the risk to commit crimes, but these were very minor situations that he was involved in. The purpose of bond on it is to ensure that a person shows up to court. And the best way to know that my client will show up to court is the fact that he turned himself in within hours of an arrest warrant being issued for him. So we would ask the court to grant him a bond in this particular matter.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Abadi?
Thank you, Judge. We would respectfully request you deny defense counsel's motion for bond against several reasons. As to the risk of flight, as Mr. Patterson did correctly indicate, there is a failure to appear. It is just for a traffic ticket in 2019 for the defendant. But I would submit to the court he's a risk of flight as he did flee the scene. He has admitted on video or to the media with his counsel next to him that he was present and that he was actually holding an assault rifle at the time, but he did not shoot. What I bring to the court's attention is the incident occurred on July 4th, and the defendant remained, out of custody until he turned himself in on July 15th. And he didn't turn himself in until on the local and national news, his picture was flashed everywhere, with him holding an AR-15 and being alleged to have been a part of one of the shooters that evening on July 4th. I'd submit to the court that he is a risk of the administration or a risk of the obstruction of the administration of justice, as self-admittedly he said he had an AR-15. That AR-15 is nowhere to be found at this point. When he turned himself in, there wasn't also the turning in of this AR-15 that he was holding, but allegedly didn't shoot, according to him and his counsel, when he made statements to the media prior to him turning himself in on July 15th that afternoon. I would also submit to the court he's a threat or danger to the people in the community, as a young Secoriea Turner, who was only 8 years old, was shot and killed when she was shot in the back while she was in her vehicle, as her mother's significant other was driving and was attempting to legally travel through or down Pryor Street when the defendant and other of his associates were wielding AR-15s and illegally blocking the Pryor Street, allowing people to go through. The entire incident is caught on multiple video surveillances systems, one being MARTA and two being two surrounding businesses in the location, where you can clearly see that the defendant discharges his weapon. You see the muzzle flash from his gun as the car is actually passed by them, passed through the barricade, and is traveling down Pryor, when the defendant then fires into the back of the vehicle that Mr. Ivory was driving, and which caused the death of Miss Turner. So it's clear from the video that the individual who shot and killed Miss Turner, the young 8-year-old, was the defendant, before Your Honor, from the video. I'd also submit to the court that through our investigation here at the DA's office, as well as the Atlanta Police Department, we have located multiple Instagrams that belong to the defendant, where he is a self-proclaimed Piru Blood gang member, where he's saying lots of, I guess, different types of gang lingo, things of that nature that indicate that him and his gang are committed to doing violence here throughout the city. I'd also submit to the court he's a risk of committing felonies pending trial, as on March 29th of this year, he was arrested in Cobb County, as defense counsel Mr. Patterson did reference, for terroristic threats, which he did throw a lit firecracker or some sort of firework at a moving vehicle on the highway. He was arrested, and when he was arrested, there were multiple guns that were found in the vehicle, 2 in his book bag, which were seized as evidence. He was released on bond, and he was on bond at the time of this incident. I bring this to the court's attention because it's important to know that one of the bond conditions was not to possess firearms out of Cobb County. And it's clear, and he had admitted on the local news stations, that he was possessing an AR-15, automatically in violation of that bond, clearly showing that if released on bond, he would be unable to follow Your Honor's restrictions or bond conditions if he was released on bond. Lastly, Your Honor, as I said, I believe he's a risk of obstruction of the administrative justice, as, again, self-admittedly that he had a firearm, but that firearm is now nowhere to be found, which would be evidence for this crime, Your Honor. Based upon all of that, I would respectfully request Your Honor to deny bond at this time. When appropriate, I know that the victim's mother, Miss Charmaine Turner, would just like to address the court whenever Your Honor deems appropriate.
She can do it now.
Miss Turner. And you can take your time, Miss Turner, if you could just spell your name for the court reporter, your first and last name.
Charmaine Turner, Charmaine. Turner, Turner. I just want the court to know that we are hurting and during our time of grieving, trying to grieve, people he associated with again, doing stuff towards me and my family. And we are scared.
Anything else, Ms. Turner? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. All right,
Nothing further from the state.
thank you. Mr. Patterson, you get the last word.
Yes, Your Honor. Anything that the government has found on social media basically is nothing but character assassination. We asked the court if the state can show us one ballistic test that proves that my client actually shot into that vehicle, we would certainly tell the judge to deny him bond. We asked the court at this time to grant him a bond of $100,000 plus ankle monitor and home arrest.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. All right, let me go ahead and actually say this. Mr. Patterson, can you address this issue of your defendant admitting that he was in possession of a firearm on the
Correct,
alleged
Your Honor,
date?
because that was a picture of him on television carrying a weapon, but that doesn't make you guilty of murder.
I understand that, but you're not contesting that he was in possession of a firearm in violation of his Cobb County bond.
That is correct.
Okay. For that reason, as well as the potential risk of flight from the prior failure to appear in 2019, I'm going to deny bond in this case.
Thank you, Judge. That's all we have.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Abadi.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. You all too. All right. Bye-bye. All right. All right. Thank you all very much. I don't know who's this here. We got a Sony and a Electra.